My name is BlueHead. It's October 27th. We've got 10 days left, folks. 10 days to November 6th, where we have to make a really important decision. I announced on the 26th, yesterday, Friday, October 26th, that from this day forward, these would be the BlueHead Chronicles rather than the BlueHead Independent Candidate Presidential Campaign. As I mentioned before, this is a construct. It's not an in-earnest endeavor to become elected to the presidency. Because, of course, in my world, that would be a fallacy. And also delusional. So, the discussion we're having is about the needs of the United States. I feel that each chronicle, I should give you more background on myself, because I'm not going to send out a resume. And the first thing I'll say is the virtue in the human being that I cherish the most is humility. So it's very difficult for me to speak about myself in anything but the most benign terms, because I am indeed a benign individual and human being, just like yourselves. Some of you are more ostentatious and flamboyant. I'm not necessarily flamboyant. I'm certainly not a snappy dresser. That much I can guarantee. I was born in 1955, and I don't know if the stars are aligned. I know that we've got an Orion meteor shower, celestial event going on this month. Very peculiar, because Orion happens to be my parent astrological home, I guess. I very much read and have researched Greek mythology, and Orion, the hunter in great Greek mythology, happens to be my favorite. And Diana, of course, his counterpart, his female counterpart. This entire campaign, this race for the presidency, is so important in 2012 that I can't overemphasize the importance of everyone who hears this, all three people, to please go vote. But I digress. Let me go back a little bit and give you another, just a tidbit about who I am as an American citizen. I was born and raised in the ghetto in a place called Norwalk. It's a little town. It's not a little town. It's probably 75,000 people now. It's a suburb of New York City. We are a metropolitan New York. I'm not going to call it a bedroom community because it's blue collar largely. Norwalk, Connecticut is a blue collar town. Historically, it was a fishing port, and that's where I got my roots. I was a commercial fisherman at a very young age, but we lived in the ghetto in my grandfather's home. Maybe someday I'll send a picture of this house because it still stands. I was thankful to grow up in that ghetto because I had my family around me, on top, underneath, alongside, and in and out of our house all day, every day, year round. And family is what governed our day-to-day existence. And the values established in that family came from my grandfather, and then most assuredly by my father. My father was a police officer, World War II veteran, and he was a cop. Okay, he was a police officer, but he was a cop. There was a gun belt hanging on our kitchen door from the time I was 2 years old, and we were told never to touch it, and when my father spoke, you listened. And he didn't have to say it twice. But he taught us respect, and he taught us the difference between right and wrong, good and bad. And my mother, who was his superior officer, was even tougher than my dad, but the most loving and nurturing people I could have had the privilege of having for parents. And if I didn't have them close by for any given moment, I had second mothers upstairs and downstairs, and my mom's sisters. They raised all of us. There were 12 kids in that house, and we all ate in different homes, different places, different times. We broke bread together. We did everything together. We recreated. My paper route was in a minority area. It was 100% African American. I wasn't welcome there at the time. We're talking 1961, 62, 7, 8 years old. But we lived in the middle of this place called Whistleville. And this is where I cut my teeth. I didn't pick it. I was born there. And my folks lived there. My dad delivered bread until he got on the force. He got on the force because my uncle was a cop. And all my dad had to do was join the Democratic Party to become a police officer. And my dad was not the ultimate Democrat. My dad was more conservative. But he needed to feed his family, and he wanted to be a cop. And he turned out to be the Marine Division commander for a whole oceanic quadrant of the state of Connecticut, and was probably the most respected law officer on the waterfront anywhere from Greenwich to New London. And so it goes. Being that close to the ocean, I fell in love with the sea. I became a fisherman. And from there, I learned to do what I do now. But we'll talk more about that. I don't really care about discussing my needs now. We need to discuss the country's needs. And the country needs a new president. It needs a new one. We can't go through another 4 years like this. I know there are some false signs in the economy that it's gurgling back to life. But having built two very successful, prosperous companies, both started during the worst economic downturns in my lifetime, I can tell you that our economy is in a condition I have not witnessed in 57 years, or at least 50 years, because the first 7 years I wasn't cognizant of the economy, but I am cognizant now, and I am just passing this along. We do not have a chance going forward in this country if we don't change our leadership, if we don't get someone on the helm who understands the principles of business and free enterprise. And unfortunately, our current president doesn't. I respect him for his opinion. I respect him for his accomplishments. But what we need now is commerce and jobs and safety first. And he's failing in all of those areas. I don't know what happened in Benghazi 2 months ago, 3 months ago now. All I know is American citizens died, and someone dropped the ball, and someone didn't man up to say who it was because of this election. And that's tragic. That's tragic. That means our leadership is weak and has no character. That's what it means. I'm not going to point fingers. I'm just going to make the declaration that our leadership is weak and is not rich in character and integrity. But our economy speaks for itself. Our unemployment rate is not 7.2, 4, or 8. It's 20, 15 to 20% in real terms. And I can only say that because I'm in that position. Number one, I'm living it empirically. And two, I go outside every day and I speak with my neighbors on both coasts, north and south, east and west. There are no jobs, not decent paying jobs, where one can support a family. All of the low-end jobs, the low-paying jobs, unfortunately, are being occupied by new immigrants. And this is how America works. It's how it's always worked. You enter as an ethnicity, whether you're Hispanic, Italian, Irish, you start at the bottom. And soon enough, you assimilate into our culture. And you work, and you end up where you choose to end up. There are certain environmental and social factors that will govern your destiny, but you are largely in charge of that yourself. It's not the government's fault. It's not your neighbor's fault. And nobody said life was fair. It's tough. It's hard to be new in this country. But if you get here and you grow your roots, you will not be sorry. This is the finest place on the planet to live. There's no doubt in my mind. Something is telling me this. It's not delusional. It's just a fact. So I'm asking you again to please go out and vote. Please. Vote your conscience. Vote your heart. But vote. You need to participate in this election. And if anything I've said makes sense to you, just common sense, then vote for Mitt Romney, because our current CEO does not know how to run a business, and that's what we are. We're a gigantic business, the largest in human history, and our CEO doesn't know how to run one. I don't think he can pick up a balance sheet and figure out what it means. I don't think he can project or forecast. I think he's surrounded by economists who are driven by their political imperatives. They all want to be in office, they all want to keep their jobs, and they want the greatness associated with the office and the history that goes with it. That's a privilege, that's an honor to get into American history in the way that he has. He's done. He's reached his crescendo. He's there. He did it. Mr. Obama, you reached your crescendo. You were the first black man in the United States to be elected, or black woman. It doesn't really matter because I'm gender neutral. But the fact is, you've made the history books. It didn't happen because your skill sets are wrong. And that's what we have to remember. We need to hire the guy who's got the skill sets to get us to the next level. Get out of this abyss and into a productive modality. And that is not Barack Obama. That's Mitt Romney. And I'm not exactly perfectly happy with that selection either. But at least Mitt Romney can read a balance sheet and get us back to work. I'm going back to work regardless. I don't care who gets in, because I am going to build another company. I'm 57, not 77. I have another 20 years in me, and I'm going to make it happen again. Not everybody has the resources or the wherewithal to do that. Well, I just happen to do it. I happen to have them, and I'm going to do it. So please vote. Think about Mitt Romney. Think about our country and our business. That's what it is. Stay tuned.